Ironically, I'm going to say we don't have much time because this is just a 20-minute session, and yet you will see me waste some time here and there. But then again, I think this is one of those sessions in between, and I'm so glad that SQL Bits gives all these non-technical sessions some room. I think the topics are super important, but I also think, to be honest, especially in the afternoon from time to time, it just helps to decompressing a bit from all these really in-depth tech talks. Before we get started, I want to encourage all of you. We all learn in different ways. So whichever way works best for you to attend this session and to consume this content, if it works for you, it works for me. If you prefer standing rather than sitting because it helps you, please stand up. If you want to take notes on a tablet, on a PC, on a notebook, do that. If you have questions in between, raise your hand or just shout at me, whatever works best for you. I got inspired for that by the amazing Lisa Hoving. It was something that I kind of always knew that we learn in different ways, but I think it's important to call it out. So again, whatever works for you will work for me. So there we go. Who of y'all considers themselves a data person? Who of y'all considers themselves an active member of the data community? Less hands. Perfect. Otherwise, you would all have been in the wrong room. Not that I'm saying that you're in the wrong room. I mean, I need you as well. But let me tell you a bit about my personal journey. In the early 2010s, I started to attend these conferences. I actually started on the other side of the pond, so I didn't attend SQL Bits until I think 2017, 2018. Attended PASS Summit way earlier than that. At some point, I became a speaker. I started blogging, started writing some books, started organizing my own event. It's a journey. There is no such thing as zero to, well, the keynote tomorrow will prove me wrong, spoiler alert, but there's almost no such thing as zero to do everything at once hero, and that is fine. And things keep changing. I don't think I have blogged in probably 3 years or so, and that is fine. Different things work for different people. Same goes for my content. When I started speaking, my first ever public speaking gig was April 1st, 2016 at SQL Saturday Vienna, which was funny enough on a Friday, which is also the day I've met Mr. Hugo Cornelis over there for the first time. I remember that. And back then, I was doing a lot of work on integration services, and just the year before, I met a company at the PASS Summit that was creating a technology called BIML, Business Intelligence Markup Language, that you can use to automate integration. It was like, people need to know about that. I was like, okay, now I found a topic, I found something that, and I started blogging about it, started speaking about that. And then more stuff came along. Big data clusters. I need a moment. Azure Arc in all its facets. I started Kubernetes, containers, SQL and Linux, infrastructure as code. Just last year at the PASS Summit, I was doing a pre-con together with Heini Ilmarinen on infrastructure as code. If you had asked me 3 years ago, are you an infrastructure person? I've been, hell no. That's not what I do data, that's it. Things are changing. I'm doing a non-technical talk today. Who knows, maybe at some point I may talk about Fabric or whatever may come along. And maybe this is the sign that for those of you that have not raised their hand, some of you have been waiting for. Because what I'm saying is, there's so many things that each and every one of us, each and every one of you can do to become a more active part of this community, to not just be a consumer. I'm grateful for everybody that's here as quote unquote just an attendee. But what I'm saying is there's many things that you can do and that you get a lot of, if you ask me personally, lots of unexpected value out of. I was late to the game because I was only an attendee for 6, 7 years before I started speaking, before I started volunteering, before I started running my own events, etc., etc. I was one of these people that were, I'm going to do this and this and this session, and then I'm going to be tired, I'm going to go to my hotel room, and the next day, that is my schedule. I learned a ton, but I didn't make any real connections, so learned a ton, I got a ton of great knowledge, but that was kind of about it. So if you think about that, and for me it was that moment where I was so, I need to tell all these people out there about BIML. And there might be something else that you might be talking to people about in whichever way. Now you might be wondering, why do I even need to, why is he telling me I need to do that? I'm very comfortable with just being attendee. Counter question, why not? What I can tell you is that this data community, and we call it SQL family, might be a slightly outdated hashtag given that we're more than SQL these days, but then again, we also still call it SQL bits. In Germany, we got a conference called SQL Conference that is not all SQL, so I guess it's the overall term that matters. And I think family is a very fair description because every family has kind of that one weird uncle that nobody wants to invite for Thanksgiving, but you're always invited. You're still the weird uncle, but you're the invited uncle, so there's two kinds of weird uncles. They will include you into this community with open arms, and that opens so many opportunities. It might be a new job that you're maybe not looking for today. It might even be a job that you didn't even know that you were looking for at some point. But just look at all the Microsoft PMs that used to be part of this community before they joined Microsoft. What do you think how they built that? And that may not be true for all of them, but how do you think they built those connections? And it's not just all the exhibitors down there, all the other people, all the other big companies and smaller companies that some of us here work for. You make these connections. You build amazing friendships. I'm going to tell you a very personal, very up-to-date story. Yesterday morning before I flew here, I pinched a nerve in my back. I was like, I probably should not come here. But I'm not going to miss all of these people, so I'm still going to do that. Even before I got here, I had more than 50 people that kind of had heard, however, all of these people figured out, hey, can we get you something? Do you need something from the pharmacy? Do you need this? Do you need that? The support network from a professional and personal level. There's so many people here that I could call each time of the day because I need some personal help, some personal advice, or just some professional advice. Hey, Daniel, I got an issue with one of my events. Could you help me out scanning people's badges, for example? Hey, Hugo, what's a cardinality estimator? Unfortunately, this is a 20-minute session, so we can't wait for the answer. But last week, we had another event called the MVP Summit. The day before MVP Summit, one of the other MVPs and I, we flew into San Francisco just to hang out for a day to get acquainted to the time zone and everything. You build amazing friendships, you build amazing support networks, and you build amazing professional networks. So the time and the effort you put into this community definitely pays back with a ton of interest. No matter which situation you're in right now, and no matter what kind of help you may need at some future point. However, we have a problem. For those of you that have raised their hand or have not raised their hand when I asked if you're an active member of the community, who of you thinks that the reason for that is that you do not have an interesting story to tell, that you don't have an interesting topic to share with others? You're wrong, and you're wrong. To be quite honest, I have no idea who you are. We can change that today. Well, what I can promise is that you're wrong, because all of you, everybody has a story. Yeah, that might be true for most of people, but not me. The only question is, what is your individual story? That's the question I just asked. And the three of you raised their hands, and I'm sure there's probably one or two that were like, yeah, I might raise my hand, but he might call out on me, so let's not do that. You figured how it's working with me. There's definitely something. I'm just going to ask you, and feel free to not respond, not throwing you under the bus. What do you do? What is your main day job? You're an analytics engineer, and you think you don't have a story to share. Nothing particularly unique. Okay. Question number one. First of all, I think you're still wrong. Again, we've just met, but because you may be approaching things from an entirely different angle than others are. And even if it's not that, even if it's not super unique, not all my content is super unique. I was giving a session earlier today about SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc. All of that content can be found in the docs. My presentation style may make it unique-ish. I was not giving anything away that there's not other people that could present it. It does not have to be that super niche topic that only you're an expert in. Also, what many of us, including myself, often forget, you may be at level 200, 300, 400, 500 at some point. Some people are at level 0. So getting started with something might be super useful to people. If you just learned what Fabric actually is, and you're coming from an entirely different perspective, you've been working with Tableau and on-prem SQL Server for the past 10 years, and now you're switching all the way to Fabric, as an example. You could tell the story, what I've learned migrating from a traditional on-prem environment switching to Fabric. Working titles, not super catchy, we might work on that, but my point is you do not have to have that one single topic that nobody else. We always will have people that fit into certain niches and that, like Hugo, for example, are able to present these 500 level sessions where, again, I don't understand any of the words, even in the title, let alone the abstract. But there's a huge need for those entry-level sessions as well. And the other thing that you will probably realize is, hang on, I didn't even realize that I just fixed the problem in a very elegant way that I didn't even realize so many others have. Whenever I do, I often, well, not whenever, but in many cases I ask myself, somebody else must have had that problem. And then I do what most of us do. We Google, we go to Stack Overflow, and if there's 0 answers on it, either I ran into a very curious particular problem where I'm like, why did I even run into this? Happens more often than I'm happy to admit. Or nobody else took the time to actually share that solution with others. And that might be what's next for you. Get involved in some kind of way and find your right channel. Because you might be like, yeah, but really I'm not going to get on that stage. I'm not going to present. It's not my thing. I don't do that. And that's cool. People learn in different ways and people share in different ways. I personally enjoy presenting. I enjoy making videos. I don't enjoy writing blogs. So I haven't blogged in, like I said, I think over 3 years. But I'm happy to take the stage. It might be entirely different for you. You might be like, yeah, no, I don't talk in front of people. But you're right. I might just, and then again, find the right platform. And I cannot emphasize that enough, find a good mentor. Find someone to walk these first steps with you. Because there's so many people out there that had this, where do I even get started with a blog? How do I even get started posting on Stack Overflow? That speaking thing sounds interesting. Who do I even talk to get on this stage up here? And there's so many, getting back to the support network in our community, so many people in our community that are more than willing and able to get you there. So you do not have to learn and learn what we've all learned in partially more painful ways to get there. So when it comes to speaking, for example, I personally run, together with my friend William Durkin, an event called New Stars of Data, which is exclusively there to nurture new talent in our data platform community. So you submit a session idea rather than an abstract, because we do realize if this is the first time you're writing a session idea, it will not be of the same quality as it would be for someone that has been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. Having that said, we sometimes for other events get abstracts from people that have been doing this for way too long that are questionable as well. Anyways, digressing. I'm not calling you out for that. The only thing we constantly do with you, Hugo, is that we schedule you in the last slot because we know that we're going to run over. I know. That's why we're also going to have a raffle right after your sessions every single time. Anyways, and for that event, we will provide you a mentor, but that mentor might be someone else you find in the community, or also really just speak to someone where like, okay, that's kind of a role model is a very strong word, and it's not something I like to use, but it probably fits the idea. If most of the people in our community are so open and willing to help, like Daniel, for example, posts a lot of stuff on open source. So here's a huge GitHub repository that might help you, actually. He may have an idea or two on what's a good way to get started, how to structure that. And knowing him without having asked him first, I'm pretty sure he's more than happy to talk to all of you for a bit to get you started there. What I'm saying is, it is not one size fits all. We all have different ways of expressing what we do. We have all different ways of consuming what we do. We have all different topics, or potentially not all different topics. But given the amount of events and given the amount of websites and blogs out there, it does not hurt to have 2 or even 3 people talk about the same thing. One reason for that is also we are all different, which is a great thing. We're still not even remotely where we should be when it comes to diversity in our community, but we're getting there slowly but steady. Always ironic, the middle-aged white man talking about diversity. But again, you're all invited. Join us in the SQL family, join us in the data platform community. There's one very, very important thing, whatever you choose to do, because that is the only way you can succeed. Pick something that makes you happy. Do not start doing Fabric talks because your boss told you to do more stuff around Fabric, and that is one of the goals that you need to finish by the end of the year. Like, well, that weird Mr. Ben told me I should get into speaking. My boss told me I've got to do Fabric, crossing both of them off the list. No, do something that you're passionate about. Do something that you thoroughly enjoy. Try some different stuff. There's nothing wrong with trying to be... I tried to blog for a bit, and at some point you just be like, well, okay, that just wasn't for me. There's no shame in stopping to do that. Same for speaking. So if we do New Stars of Data, every single event so far, a couple of these speakers there made Microsoft MVP afterwards. It's not a KPI that we're kind of aiming for, but it still tells a bit of a story. Also, every single time, the majority of the people there, we've never seen them again. And that is also fine. Because they've tried, it was not for them, and then they move on. I got another invitation, because there's so many people in the room that I don't know. Jess Pomfret and I were running a podcast. We publish every week on Friday at 8:30 GMT, except in weeks like this, because if everybody's here, nobody's going to listen to us. It's called Finding Data Friends, 15-ish minutes. We ask you 3 questions. What is your favorite data thing? What is your favorite non-data thing? What is your favorite food? The food question only came at later episodes, and there's a backstory that I'm not sure we want to have on the recording. Basically, the backstory is we end up kidnapping our attendees, and then details, schmeetails. If any of you would be interested in joining us there, we would be delighted to have you. Just drop me your contact details or anything, or ping me. Over here are my contact details. We would love to have you on the list and have you join as our guests. And with that, with even 3 minutes left, yes. Thank you so much. I would love to talk to more of you. Sorry? Yeah, please put that in the feedback, Hugo. Speaker finished on time, would not attend again. Which again shows us that we all teach and consume in different ways. No, but what I was saying is I would love to have more conversations with all of you. If any of you feels like I want to get more involved, please talk to me. Please talk to some of the amazing helpers we have here, which is also an amazing way of being involved in the data platform. Everybody here wearing an orange shirt today, yesterday, tomorrow, all of those are helpers that invest their own time to not just sit here and have to listen to me, but also to support this event and to support this community-driven conference. And I think that is amazing. And that is also one of the many ways, if you at this point, I get the point with getting more connected. I don't have anything to talk about. Maybe volunteering is a good way for you to get started. And with that, I want to thank you all very, very much. I'm looking forward to having as many conversations with all of you as possible over the course of this day and tomorrow. And with that, thank you for coming.